I knew something was wrong when my husband locked himself in the hospital bathroom and refused to come out after our daughter was born. We weren't even trying for a baby. That's what makes it feel cruel in hindsight. We had just gotten married, barely settled into our apartment, still arguing about where to hang pictures and what color couch to buy. Then one random Tuesday, I felt sick, so I took a test. I was pregnant. I remember sitting on the edge of the tub staring at it like it might change its mind. When I told Daniel, my husband, he froze for a second, then broke into this huge smile. A son, he said immediately, like it was already decided. He said it over and over the first few weeks, told his parents, his friends, I'm finally getting a son. He started planning everything around that idea, bought tiny blue onesies before we even had confirmation, picked out a name, Noah, within days, painted the nursery himself, deep blue walls, little rockets and stars. Every conversation somehow came back to this future version of his life, teaching him baseball, fixing cars together. He's gonna be just like me, he'd say, almost proud of something that didn't exist yet. At the ultrasound, the technician hesitated for a second, then said, it looks like a boy. Daniel lit up. That was it for him. No doubt, no room for anything else. He doubled down on everything. More clothes, more plans, more certainty. I remember asking once, half joking, what if it's not a boy? He laughed. It is, he said. They already told us. By 30 weeks, I was huge and exhausted, but calm. I'd started talking to the baby when I was alone, not using the name Noah, just talking like we were friends. Daniel stopped coming to appointments around the same time, said work was busy, but at home, he'd still sit in the nursery sometimes, just staring at it like it was already real. The day I went into labor, he was there. I gripped the kitchen counter as the pain hit. Daniel, I called. He came in, saw my face, and for a second, panic flickered. It's time, I said. He nodded, grabbed the keys, and drove us to the hospital in silence. Labor was long, hours blurred together, pain stacking until I couldn't separate one from the next. Daniel stayed at first, held my hand, counted breaths, but every time someone said baby, I felt his focus narrow in a strange way, like he was waiting for a specific outcome. At one point, he leaned in and said quietly, we'll meet him soon. I didn't correct him. I didn't have the energy. When it was finally time, the room shifted. Nurses moved faster. One more push, the doctor said. I pushed with everything I had, then a cry, sharp, alive. It's a girl, the nurse said, placing her on my chest. Everything inside me flooded at once. Relief, love, awe. She was tiny and perfect and real. I looked up immediately to share the joy with my husband. Daniel, he was gone. I waited, thinking maybe he stepped out for a second. Minutes passed. The nurse cleaned the baby, wrapped her up. Still nothing. Your husband stepped out? She asked gently. Yeah, I said, but my voice felt thin. I asked someone to check. When they came back, their expression had shifted. He's in the bathroom, she said. The door's locked. At first, it sounded ridiculous, then it didn't. They knocked, called his name, nothing. Eventually, staff unlocked the door. He was sitting on the floor back against the wall, staring straight ahead. Sir, they said, your wife just gave birth. He blinked slowly, like the words didn't register. I can't, he said, flat. They brought him back anyway. He stood in the doorway, not coming closer. I held our daughter tighter. Daniel, I said. He shook his head immediately. That's not right, he said. They said it was a boy. Sometimes they're wrong, I said, still trying to process everything myself. It doesn't matter. It does, he snapped, sharper now. I planned everything. He gestured vaguely toward nothing. The room, the name, everything. That was supposed to be my son. The word my hung there, heavy and ugly. She's your child, I said. Our child. He looked at her like she was a mistake someone else made. That's not what I wanted. My stomach dropped in a way that had nothing to do with labor. Daniel, I can't do this, he said again. But this time there was frustration in it, not fear. I'm not starting over. I'm not redoing everything because they got it wrong. This isn't a project, I said, my voice breaking. This is your child. He didn't answer, just turned and walked out. He didn't come back. Not that day. Not the next. By the time I was discharged, his side of the closet was empty. The nursery he built sat untouched. Blue walls and a name that no longer meant anything. I packed away the clothes he bought, the ones that didn't fit her, the ones he'd chosen so carefully for someone else. My parents stepped in immediately. My mom moved in for a while. My dad fixed things that broke and held her when I couldn't keep my eyes open. I named her Nora. She had this habit of gripping my finger so tightly it felt like she was anchoring herself to me. The first year was survival. The second was adjustment. By the third, it was just our life. There was no space left for Daniel in it. When Nora was 4, I met Aaron at a parent event. Nothing dramatic, just conversation that didn't feel forced. He never tried to replace anything. He just showed up every time. He learned how Nora liked her sandwiches cut, sat through her long, messy stories, taught her how to ride a bike, jogging beside her until she didn't need him anymore. When she was 7, she started calling him dad on her own. No discussion, no pressure. It just happened. Last month, there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and for a second, I didn't recognize him. Older, thinner, worn down in a way that felt earned. Hi, he said. Emma. Hearing my name from him felt wrong. Daniel, he swallowed. I've been thinking about this for years. I want to meet her. Nora, I'm ready now. Ready. I stepped aside anyway, not for him, for clarity. Nora was in the living room, sprawled on the floor doing homework. Aaron sat beside her, helping her with a science question. If a plant doesn't get sunlight, what happens? He asked. It dies, she said, or it adapts. He corrected gently. She smiled. She looked up when she noticed us. Mom? Her eyes moved to Daniel, curious but calm. Who's that? She asked. No recognition, no connection. Daniel stepped forward slightly, something desperate flickering in his expression. They have a father, I said, my voice steady. Aaron looked up, read the room instantly, and stayed exactly where he was. Nora leaned into him without thinking. That small movement said everything. I made a mistake, Daniel said quietly. I thought I wanted a son. I thought that's what mattered. I was wrong. You didn't just think it, I said. You chose it, over her. He looked past me again, like he was trying to see something he never built. Can I at least talk to her? He asked. I shook my head. You walked away because she wasn't what you pictured. You don't get to come back now that she's exactly who she's supposed to be. I opened the door wider, not inviting, ending it. You don't get to skip to the part where she's easy to love. He stood there for a second longer, then nodded slightly, like he finally understood something too late. I closed the door. Through the window, I watched him walk back to his car, slower this time. Inside, Nora had already gone back to her homework. Mom, is the answer photosynthesis? She called. Yes, I said. Aaron glanced at me. I nodded once. It was done. Nora didn't ask again about the man at the door. To her, he wasn't important, and that was the truth of it. We sat there together, the life we built without him filling the room completely. Whole, steady, exactly as it should be.